Welcome back to another Demon Slayer video. Rui and Akaza are finally out, and we are going to cover both of them on this channel extensively. We're going to do a character review for each one of them. We're going to do some gameplay as well, but that's not what we're doing right now because, ladies and gentlemen, we know what the full DLC roster looks like. That's right, with this update, some folders were added to the game files, and in those game files, we can find the names for all the DLC characters. This comes from the Twitter user Lean Buscalia, and today is his birthday, which is maybe a happy coincidence. Happy birthday, my man, and thank you so much for the data mining. Now, before I tell you who the characters are, let me just prepare you because it's kind of not a great list. In my opinion, at the very least, but let's look at it. Rui and Akaza are in the first update, and coming in the second and third are Yahaba, Susamaru, Enmu, and Yushiro. The second DLC pack, the next one to come out, will have Susamaru and Yahaba, and yes, they are playing as separate characters. Maybe if we look at the story mode boss fights, we can start to guess what some of their moves are. The same way that Rui and Akaza have a lot of moves from that boss fight that were taken into the playable versions. Now, some of those moves may be smaller, maybe they don't cover such a big area, but they should at least give you an idea of how these characters will play. And if they're any indication, it seems that Rui will not be the only zoner in the game because Susamaru and Yahaba seem pretty good at zoning themselves. Yahaba is perhaps the more interesting character of the two because I don't think he attacks at all. So it'll be interesting to see how a character with no attacks actually works in this game. Or maybe they'll just give him some attacks, who knows. The third DLC pack will have Enmu and Yushiro. Now, Senju in Japan said that we would be getting 6.5 free demons as DLC. We have the 6 demons here, so where is the 0.5? And my guess is that Yushiro will actually have Lady Tamayo as a part of his moveset in some capacity. Maybe the demon skills that you activate with the assist button have Lady Tamayo come in and do a move or something. And Enmu is yet another zoner. A lot of these demons are just zoners. But out of all the boss fights in story mode, I think Enmu was really the one that looked like he was just ready to be implemented. He seems to have the moveset pretty much figured out at this point. And the cool thing about Enmu is that his basic attacks also seem to be projectiles. So unlike Rui and Akaza, who have zoning skills where you can hit the skill button to spend some meter and zone your opponent, if we're judging from the boss fight, Enmu can actually do it with just the attack button. So that will also be very interesting to see. After all these characters come out, there's another DLC character that has already been data mined for a while, and that's Tengen Uzui. Tengen is the Season 2 hashira. He'll play a major role in Season 2. And since he's the 7th DLC character, it will be a while before we get him. We'll probably see him in the show before we see him in the game. Now, Tengen is not a part of the 6 free DLC characters thing, so he will most likely be paid DLC. And because he is paid DLC, if I had to guess, there will probably be something extra with Tengen. Maybe a little story arc, maybe it's the Season 2 story, maybe it's something original, but I think we'll get something extra with Tengen Uzui. And yeah, with those 7 characters, this character select screen becomes completely full, and I think that's the roster for this Demon Slayer game. CyberConnect 2 is a company that usually picks up projects with some long-term promise. I've heard this from the studio director himself. He did a Q&A video, and he talked about how they choose their projects. So with this Demon Slayer game coming out, you can definitely expect them to be working on Demon Slayer 2 and Demon Slayer 3. Or at least that's what CyberConnect usually wants to do. And for that reason, I really think this is it. This is the roster for this first Demon Slayer game. After that, they are going to be focusing on the sequels. Now, what I would like to know is, what do you think of this complete roster? And I'll give you my opinion. Tengen Uzui being a paid DLC character, especially if he comes with something extra, that's pretty good. The rest of the cast is a bit disappointing for me. When they announced Rui and Akaza, I was worried that they were just shooting their best characters right out the door in the first DLC pack, which would leave the other DLC packs to be kind of disappointing. Or disappointing is maybe not the right word, but definitely not as strong as, you know, Rui and Akaza. And looking at this data mine, yeah, that definitely seems to be the case. But there's one big caveat. Usually I prefer how unique a character plays, how hyped the gameplay is, rather than how hyped the character is in the show. So any of these characters could become my favorite in the future. It all depends on how they play. But just looking at character hype alone, this is kind of a weak list for the rest of your DLC season. The big omission here, and the character that I think everyone was expecting, was the Season 2 demon, which we're not going to spoil for obvious reasons. We saw a little bit of that demon in the Season 2 trailer, so that's all we're gonna spoil. By the time the third DLC pack rolls around, it's very likely that Season 2 will have started already. And by Season 2, I mean not the Mugen Train arc, the real Season 2 arc. So I think expecting that demon was a fair expectation from fans. But since the roster will most likely be done with just these characters we talked about, I don't think that demon will be playable at all. And to me, that's the biggest disappointing thing about these leaks. That's it. I look forward to seeing how these characters play. I look forward to putting my hands on them, especially since this game has been really good about making each character play in a unique way. It's definitely a game that has me excited for new DLC, simply because I'm excited to see how they handle each character. Those are my thoughts. I would love to know yours as well. And as always, thank you very much for watching. My name is Globku, and I'll see you next time. Bye!